Differences in learning and teaching. Proverbs 22 verse 6 and James 3 verse 1 New King James Version. Proverbs 22 verse 6 and James 3 verse 1 are two verses from the New King James Version of the Bible that offer different perspectives on teaching and learning. Teaching. Proverbs 22 verse 6 in the New King James Version states, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." This proverb is often interpreted to mean that if parents teach their children good values and habits when they are young, those teachings will stick with them throughout their lives. Learning. James 3 verse 1 in the New King James Version reads, "My brethren, let not many of you become teachers, knowing that we shall receive a stricter judgment." This verse is a warning to those who would take on the role of teaching others, reminding them that they will be held to a higher standard and face stricter judgment. Meet baby James. He's just an infant, and his parents, Tom and Lisa, don't prioritize teaching him about God or raising him in a Christian home. Proverbs 22 verse 6 advises parents to train up their children in the way they should go, so that when they are older, they will not depart from those teachings. James 3 verse 1, on the other hand, is a warning to those who would take on the role of teaching others. It cautions them that they will be held to a higher standard and face stricter judgment. While Proverbs 22 verse 6 focuses on the importance of teaching children, James 3 verse 1 speaks to the responsibility of those who would be teachers themselves. Together, these two verses offer valuable lessons about the power and importance of teaching and learning. In summary, Proverbs 22 verse 6 emphasizes the importance of teaching children, while James 3 verse 1 reminds us that those who would be teachers must be responsible and accountable for their teachings. Both verses offer valuable insights into the roles of teachers and learners in our lives. Proverbs 22 verse 6 raised by worldly standards. As James grows up, he begins to rebel against his parents and experiment with drugs and alcohol. His parents don't seem to care, so he continues down this dangerous path. James is now a juvenile, and he's been arrested for stealing. He's surrounded by other kids who are also making bad choices, and he feels like he doesn't have any other options. James is now a teenager, and he's still making poor choices. He's dropped out of school, and he's in trouble with the law again. He's angry at the world and doesn't see a way out of his situation. James is now a young adult, and he's struggling to make ends meet. He's working low-wage jobs and living with his girlfriend, who is also addicted to drugs. He feels hopeless and lost, wondering if life will ever get better. James is now an adult, and he's been in and out of prison for years. His addiction has taken a toll on his health, and he has no real prospects for the future. He's all alone, with no family or friends who still care about him. As we've seen, the advice in Proverbs 22 verse 6 is powerful, but it's not a guarantee. When parents fail to train their children in the way they should go, it can have devastating consequences. And when children make ungodly or worldly choices, those choices can affect their entire lives. May we all take seriously the responsibility of raising up the next generation to follow God's ways, and may we all remember that our choices have consequences that can last a lifetime. Proverbs 22 verse 6 raised by godly standards. Meet baby Sarah. She's just an infant, so she can't really respond to the advice in Proverbs 22 verse 6 yet. But her parents, John and Mary, are determined to train her up in the way she should go. They pray for her, read her Bible stories, and show her love and kindness. Fast forward a few years, and Sarah is now a young child. She's attending Sunday school and learning about God's love. Her parents continue to model godly behavior, and Sarah responds by obeying them and treating others with kindness. As Sarah enters her teenage years, she starts to feel the pull of peer pressure. She's hanging out with friends who don't share her faith, and she begins to make choices that go against what her parents have taught her. But deep down, she knows they're right, and she feels convicted to turn back to God. Sarah is now a teenager, and she's decided to commit her life to Christ. She's attending church regularly, reads her Bible, and praying for guidance. She's also become a role model for her younger siblings, who look up to her as an example of what it means to follow Jesus. Sarah is now a young adult, and she's facing new challenges. She's in college and dealing with the stresses of schoolwork, relationships, and finding her place in the world. But through it all, she's leaning on God and relying on the training she received as a child. She's also seeking out mentors and wise counsel to help guide her decisions. Sarah is now an adult, and she's living out the principles she learned as a child. She's married and has children of her own, and she's passing on the legacy of faith to them. She's also active in her church and community, using her gifts and talents to serve others. As we've seen, the advice in Proverbs 22 verse 6 can have a profound impact on our lives. Whether we respond godly or ungodly, the training we receive as children can shape whom we become as adults. May we all strive to follow God's ways and train up the next generation to do the same.